What is going on, golf fans? It's your boy Gsluke here with our value plays for this week's CJ Cup. Going to be covering my top 6 GPP players priced $8,000 and below on Draftkings to help you get some ownership and salary flexibility to spend up for an extra stud or two and get that much needed leverage for these large field contests. These players going to be a little bit volatile, but for these large field contests where you have to take down 20 to 100,000 other entries are giving you the sort of upside that you're looking for and might just be the keys to success to take home all the big bucks. So with that being said, a lot that I would like to talk about here. Let's go ahead and get this thing started. The first value pick this week is the same from last week, Emiliano Grillo, coming in with just scorching hot form. And if you're looking for somebody that's doing all the right things from the shots gained perspective, Emiliano Grillo is going to be your guy. So when we take a look at the last 24 measured rounds, you can see that he's gaining across 3 out of the 4 categories. The one where he's not gaining is around the green, which is kind of what you'd expect from Emiliano Grillo. Not going to be the best short game player, but he doesn't miss many fairways and greens to begin with. He's gaining off the tee, gaining on approach, but most surprisingly, gaining over half a stroke per round with the putter, which is unheard of. He's figured something out on the greens, and though the ball striking isn't quite as prolific as what we've seen the last 2 years, he's more than making up for it with the flat stick. Over the last 50 measured rounds, you'll see that that trend continues where he's gaining off the tee and on approach, albeit a little bit more significantly over the last 50 measured rounds. And though the putter isn't quite half a stroke per round anymore, he's still clearly in the positive. So you can see over his last 50 measured rounds, playing a little bit closer to what we'd expect, but still a positive with that putter, which has really been the X factor. So if you look at his recent form, you'll get an idea of what I'm talking about here. At the bottom, you can see that guy who was highlighted is going to be one of the value picks we talk about there with Gary Woodland. But when we take a look at Grillo here, you'll see he finished in 4th last week, made the cut, but finished in 73rd the week before that, top 5 finish, top 25 finish, and then a couple other runner-up finishes there in the fall swing. So overall, is coming in with the form that we're looking for. And though we haven't played this event at this golf course before, he has played the CJ Cup before, right? Top 20 last time out, almost a top 25 there in 2018. So he's continually improved at this no-cut event over the years. And last time out, it was played at the Summit Club, which is another Tom Fazio design, a comp course that I'm actually using this week, both from the skill set and the designer perspective. So good to see that he finished in the top 20 there. Outside of that, he's going to be pretty much the same amount of ownership as guys around him. So I have him at 13.1%, which isn't low, right? He's still one of the higher owned players in this range, but it's not drastically higher than a Corey Connors and an Aaron Wise, or players like a Brian Harman that are still getting attention. So though he's not a piece of leverage that you can get to here, he's still well worth putting in 25 to maybe 30% of your lineups, because if he can go out there and ball strike it like he's used to, continue that momentum with the putter, you're looking at a potential win for Grillo at $7,900. The next value pick is going to be Tommy Fleetwood at $7,600. Gotta like just the well-rounded skill set here, and that is despite last week kind of falling flat on his face. I mean, it was right around an even par score for all 4 days, which around that track was getting lapped. But despite that, is still gaining across all 4 categories over his last 24 rounds. In fact, aside from off the tee, is gaining over a third of a stroke per round. You can see gaining 0.41 shots gained approach per round, gaining significantly around the green, and over half a stroke per round with the putter. So in this top of the 7K range, you're getting one of the most well-rounded players in the field. And if you compare Tommy Fleetwood's shots gained metrics to some of the guys in the 9 and 10K range, he actually beats out quite a few of them. So you're really just getting a good salary type of value here, and he's not getting a ton of ownership, right? He's 8.4% owned. I would guess a lot of that has to do with last week's performance where he went out there and finished in 53rd. Before that, hadn't played all that often over, the playoffs there or in the fall swing. Had a few events that he's taken part in, but overall, I think a lot of people are just kind of worried about the form. You haven't seen him on the DP World Tour all that much, but when we've seen Tommy Fleetwood, he's been one of the best players in the field. So I'm willing to look past that a little bit. I think that in terms of pedigree, he is by far the best player in this range. And even at the shots gained metrics, which, again, he hasn't had many flashy finishes of late, he's still gone out there and quietly gained across all 4 categories. So I like what I'm seeing. I think he's a decent course fit here. Certainly going to have to hit some fairways. But even course fit aside, it's just the best player in that range and somebody I think I'm going to get plenty of exposure to. Our next value is Russell Henley at 7,300. Now this is more of a course fit play, right? Whereas Fleetwood, Grillo is more of a recent form play. Fleetwood is definitely a pedigree play. This is all about course fit. Henley is extremely accurate off the tee, and if you saw my course breakdown video, you know how much I'm looking at off the tee play, both distance and accuracy. And while Henley isn't a bomber, he's going to gain significantly off the tee because of the amount of fairways that he's hitting. He's one of the better long iron players on tour. That is a key metric that I'm looking at, and also pretty damn good with the wedges, which if the middle irons are going to be a little bit less important, you have extra emphasis on the wedges and the long irons at this golf course, and that is exactly what Russell Henley excels at. In terms of Bermuda putting, he's by far his best self on Bermuda. Those are the surfaces that we get here. So overall, at all the stat categories I'm looking at are things that we kind of know a Russell Henley for. So that's why I'm getting a lot of attention to him, why I think he's a solid play here. You can see gains close to a quarter of a stroke per round on Bermuda. The shots gain metrics over the last 24 rounds have been pretty decent, and that's been kind of quiet, right? Gaining off the tee, gaining over half a stroke per round with the approach play. The putter has just been absolutely atrocious. So when you look at the recent form, that's really been the cause for some of the middling performances, like the miscut last time out, miscut the time before that, but does have a 5th and a 10th place finish right beyond those 2 missed cuts. So it's all about the type of Russell Henley that we get this week, right? Whether it's the negative end of the volatility or the player that's going to hit a ton of fairways and make his fair share of putts. In either circumstance, $7,300 is a great source of salary flexibility and also only 6.1% owned. So it's not like he's getting owned in a ton of lineups here. Easy to get leverage. You play him in 15% and you're well over 2.5x the field. Definitely something that I'll be doing this week. Next up, we got JT Poston. He's $7,100. He's actually an ambassador for Congaree Golf Club. So if you haven't heard about how they do the membership here, it's all on an ambassador type of basis. So they bring in a lot of professional golfers, just big names in the golf industry like Dottie Pepper is an ambassador for this golf course, and they use it as a teaching tool for some of the youth. So it's all about giving back to the community of Ridgeland, South Carolina, and JT Poston is one of the most influential ambassadors for this golf course. He's here all the time, having hands-on-hands access with some of the people that are part of the program at Congaree Golf Club. And overall, if anybody's going to be extremely familiar with this track, it's a JT Poston, it's a Kevin Kisner, a Matthew Neesmith, those sort of players that are here all the time as a part of that ambassador program. And it's not like JT Poston isn't playing solid golf, right? So if you take a look at his shots gain metrics, you'll get an idea for why I'm even more excited about him. While he's not gaining off the tee, he can tend to be a little bit inaccurate there. He's gaining a bunch of strokes on approach, around the green, and with the putter, like we'd expect to see. And over his last 50 measured rounds, that sort of trend keeps up. So you can see gaining across all 4 categories over his last 50 measured rounds. So if anything, he's been in a slight downturn of late with the recent form, but is still a lot more respectable than some of his peers, right? Even over the last 24 rounds, is one of the best putters in this range. I mean, Denny McCarthy, the best putter in the world, is one of the only few guys that is outperforming him. But the thing that he has on a Denny McCarthy are the ball striking stats, right? He's still gaining on approach. He's just a slight loser off the tee. And when he's playing his best golf, he is able to hit fairways, at least be a slight positive in that category. So that's the one thing holding him back, right? He's not an elite off the tee guy, and that is my number 1 key stat this week. But considering that he has that hometown bias behind him, I think it more than makes up for it. Next up, we've got Davis Riley, and oh boy, right? Luke's talking up Davis Riley again, no wonder. So $6,900, he's just way too cheap at this point. Maybe it's just me banging my head against a wall, but this is an $8,000 golfer who's volatile, who's gonna miss some cuts. That the outright odds and also the algorithm for Draftkings pricing just seems to be a little bit disrespectful here, right? You're talking about somebody who, even in his bad stretch of golf, is still playing decently, right? Only losing with his putter over that stretch, and we know he loves the Bermuda grass surface, gains over half a stroke putting per round. And when we take a look at his last 50 measured rounds, right, which is a much more fair sample size, right, giving him a little bit more to work with, he's gaining in both off the tee and on approach, over 2/3 of a stroke on approach per round, and it's just a slight negative both around the green and with the putter. So if you're going to target Davis Riley, it's usually on Bermuda, where he's able to go out there and gain significantly with the putter. That's what we get this week. We have him at just 5% ownership, so nobody's willing to get there. And in terms of pedigree, kind of similar to a Tommy Fleetwood, is just way better than his peers, right? The only guy here I would say is really even comparable to his pedigree is a Seamus Power at $7,000. And yeah, I'm playing Seamus Power this week too. So definitely underpriced there. I love him on Bermuda grass. And hey, I'm not going to talk about it anymore because he's an extremely volatile player, could definitely fall flat on his face, but also has legit top 5 or even winning upside in this field. And in large field GPPs, you got to take some uncomfortable plays, right? I mean, we took Tom Hoagie at the 3M Open coming in off 8 missed cuts. You had guys like Sepp Straka go out and nearly win after 7 straight missed cuts. You know, when somebody's just a higher pedigree player than his peers, those are the sort of guys that take shots on, right? To hope that they can bounce back to their baseline. Davis Riley is exactly that sort of player. And the last pick we're talking about, which was on the screen multiple times at the beginning of the video, is unbelievably priced Gary Woodland at $6,400. And even on the outright betting market, kind of similar to a Davis Riley, is being completely disrespected. This is a player who has missed the cut on the number or withdrawn from the last few events almost every single time. So when you're talking about from a DFS play, nobody's going to use Gary Woodland, even though he's way underpriced, because they have a personal vendetta against him, right? They feel like they've been slighted, rostering him over the last month or so. But let's look at the shots gained metrics. Gaining close to half a stroke per round off the tee, a third of a stroke per round on approach, slight gainer around the green, okay, but losing half a stroke putting. Okay, so that's clearly what's holding him back. Over the last 50 measured rounds, it's a similar story, gaining over a third of a stroke per round off the tee and on approach, a slight gainer around the green, and losing half a stroke putting. What's the one surface we can kind of count on Gary Woodland on? Oh, that's right. It's Bermuda, right? Where he's right around a neutral putter. If you take a look at his 2021 season, almost all of his top 15 finishes came on Bermuda. So when you're trying to target Woodland, kind of like a Davis Riley, it's when you get him on his advantageous surface, because the thing that really holds him back, where he bleeds strokes from time to time, is alleviated, right? You get him on a surface that's comfortable. Maybe he's just a little bit more confident on it, not nearly as timid as he is on other surfaces, and you start to see him make a few putts. So I like to see that. The recent form is why no one's going to play him. It's why he's $6,400. WD, missed cut, 64th, 51st, missed cut, just not much to hunker down on there. But let's look at the guys priced around him, right? Danny Willett, John Ha, all of these players from Korea that we have no idea who the heck they are, right? Justin Suh, who's been horrible to start his PGA Tour career. Harris English coming in off injury. Benny Ann, right, who's coming in off the Korn Ferry Tour, hasn't done anything to this point. He's a much, much better player than his peers. So I know it's a little bit ugly. It's going to make you a little bit uncomfortable to play a Gary Woodland this week. But given that he's only 5.4% owned, is somebody I'm just going to have to take a shot on. Hope that he can go out there, maybe just be a neutral putter. And hey, if we get a spike putting performance from Woodland, which is going to happen once or twice a year, he could end up contending, like what you saw at the Honda Classic last year, or even at the API. Ended up finishing in the top 10 in both of those events. Had a legitimate chance to win both of them as well. I love what I'm seeing, and I think he's just a higher upside play than people are giving him credit for. All right, fellas, that is all I've got for this week's Value Picks video. Before you hop on out of here, go ahead and smash that like button, but also go ahead and comment your top value priced $8,000 and below on Draftkings. I'm going to have to take Grillo. I think he's got a legit chance of winning, but if I'm going to have to do it on a per salary basis, I mean, Gary Woodland at $6,400 is the misprice of the slate. So go ahead and let me know your thoughts down below. But best of luck with all of your lineups for this week. Any outright bets that you decide to go with. Should be a fun one over there in South Carolina, and I'm very likely to be on site at some point. So I'll be able to give you guys some inside information if that ends up being the case. In either circumstance, going to be an absolute banger of a week. Really looking forward to it. Until next time, guys, best of luck. Like I mentioned, I'll see you for the live stream Wednesday evening at 7 p.m. Eastern time, and let's get this cash, fellas.